What is up, everybody? It's Bass Jalarin. Welcome once again to another video from the floor of my goddamn closet. Me and my cat are here to film another video. And this video, finally we got some manga related shit going on here in my channel. And today I actually decided to film this video. It's kind of sort of inspired by user channel Migs. He filmed a video about like his manga journey, which is honestly really cool and interesting, and I really like looking into like everyone's past, about like, how did I get into manga? How did I get here? With fucking too many books. How did this happen? And I've been meaning to like film a video about like, here's my deep dark secret manga past. And I guess that video sort of inspired me to finally get on making this video. And I'll link to that video in the description below, his video. Because he's a pretty new, like, manga collector. And it's just really interesting to see, like the growth. Like, somebody coming in, like, brand new and, like, figuring shit out. And it's all like, shit, man, I've been there. I know, I understand. So yeah, that video is going to be in the description, mostly because it inspired me to make this video finally, and that would be my personal manga journey, and a lot of shit happens, including a sexual awakening, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, so we're going to start from the humblest of beginnings, and that would be when I was a mere child in elementary school. Yes, this goes back a long-ass way, because I'm 27 now, and this starts before I even hit puberty. We are going way back in time. And there was this guy in my year at elementary school, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm just going to call him Trunks, because boy loved Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. Boy based like his entire personality around Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. These days we would call it he was kin with Trunks, if you want to get like a general gist of how much this guy fucking loved Trunks. And I was head over heels for this little dude. So in like little girl fashion, I was all like, how in the fuck, because he was in a different class than me. Like, there was, like, very little chance that we would ever speak unless we were ever at, like, lunch or, like, at recess together. So I'm like, how in the fuck am I going to, like, get to know this guy who I'm, like, borderline obsessing over, and I'm, like, 10. And I'm like, alright, well, he appears to enjoy this show called Dragon Ball Z. I have no idea what the fuck that is. I'm, like, into, like, Pokemon. I, like, know anime at like the base level that we all did as children, where it's like, there's Pokemon and that's cool, that's a cartoon. So I had no idea what anime was, I had no idea what manga was, I had no idea pretty much like the country of Japan was at this point. So I decide there's this show this guy really likes, and this character from the show this guy really likes, and what I'm gonna do, my plan of attack, is I am going to delve deep as I fucking can into this series. I am going to start watching it. I'm going to start buying every piece of merchandise I possibly can from this series, and I am going to absorb as much as I can about this series so I can further relate to this dude I have a mad-ass crush on, and he will fall head over heels for me because no one else at our school liked Dragon Ball Z. It was weird. So I went ahead, I started watching the show, and I started buying the manga. Now, I bought the manga in, like, classic, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing fashion, and I bought, like, random-ass volumes whenever I could. I was, like, an elementary school student. I had, like, a $7 a month, like, allowance, so there wasn't a lot I could get. So, but for every penny I had, I spent it on Dragon Ball Z figurines, Dragon Ball Z manga. They had a stupid Dragon Ball Z magazine that had, like, pull-out posters that I hung all over my fucking room. I bought so much Dragon Ball Z stuff, you guys, just so I could get the attention of this fucker. And he wound up moving, and at that point we'd actually formed a bond, we'd actually formed a friendship, and he's like, I'll totally contact you, because he lived in the same neighborhood, he just went to a different school, never fucking called me again. I think I saw him once when I was in middle school, and then we never contacted each other ever again, and all of my efforts were in vain. So here I am, motherfucker, with all this Dragon Ball Z merch and no reason to have it because the object of my affections has left, and please don't start fighting cats. They're right in front of me and they're fighting. Please separate yourselves. No! Sorry, my cats decided to wage war in the middle of my video. Let's continue. So I had all this Dragon Ball Z stuff, all this room and nowhere to gallop, and the sensible person would have been like, well, that was a bust. We were into this thing because we wanted affection from a guy. We should just get rid of this. We should move on with our lives. We should just depart from this chapter in our history and just leave it all behind because there's no point in watching Dragon Ball Z anymore. But nope. Little me was all like, at this point, like around 6th grade, I had a neighbor who was also wildly into anime and manga too. And so I was like, so this is like a thing. Manga and stuff is like a thing, and there's a lot of other series, and it's all Japanese and weird. And I went from like, Dragon Ball Z is this show, to going over to my friend's basement and watching Cat Soup, which, if you've never watched Cat Soup, holy shit, go watch Cat Soup. It is an experience, especially coming off Dragon Ball Z and immediately diving into weirdo fucking Japanese garbo shit. But yeah, I started realizing that there was like a whole like subculture, and there was like other stuff aside from Dragon Ball that I could purchase. And so instead of leaving that stuff behind, leaving that part of my life behind, I decided to just double down and just start diving into the world of like manga. And I started collecting Tokyo Mew Mew. I started collecting like Sailor Moon. I pretty much started collecting anything I could afford and get my hands on. Anything that looked interesting to me. Like, I'd walk into a bookstore, that looks cool, get it. Like, not even like look at a synopsis, just that looks cool, it's mine now. And something that I realized as I was getting these is that my mom used to be very strict about the media I consumed in my personal time. Like, I would go to the bookstore. I very fondly remember, as an example, there was like this fantasy series of novels that was really popular among my friends at the time in middle school, and I attempted to buy it, and my mom was all like, I need to read it first. So she takes it from me in the bookstore. We haven't even bought it yet. And she reads, and within the first couple of pages, somebody drinks a beer. A character's like, Mom has a beer casually in a scene. And my mom's like, somebody drinks in this novel, you cannot buy it. That was the level of control my mom had over the shit that I read, the shit that I watched. And she would not let me consume anything that had to do with anything deviant. But my mom was under the impression that manga was just all fun kiddie cartoons, which is something that a lot of people who are kind of ignorant about it think is that it's all for children because it's all cartoons and cartoons are for kids. So my mom just let me buy whatever the fuck I want, just didn't go through any of the shit that I ever bought, never read it to see if it was acceptable. So I realized I can buy whatever the shit I want. I'm gonna buy so much crap. So I would go out of my way to buy stuff that was explicit. I would go out of my way, little middle school me would go out of her way to find all the titties she could and just buy it and read it. And the thing was, it was, at first it was just me just being rebellious. My mom doesn't care, she thinks this is all kiddie shit, so I'm gonna buy a bunch of adult manga and she can't stop me. It was just for the freedom of it all, because finally I had something that my mom wasn't going to pick and choose what I could and could not read. But as I read it, little itty bitty middle school little tween me reading these, like, books with, like, girls with their titties out, and being in, like, sexually explicit situations, excuse me, I started to realize, wow, girls are pretty. Girls are really, really attractive. And I started to realize, like, as my tastes started to continue on, like, I like buying titty manga, I really liked girls. Girl hot. Girls so hot. Titties good. Titties very nice. Very nice boobs, yes. And as I went into high school, I was all like, I like girls. I think I like girls. Because every single girl, I'm reading this, like, really pervy, sort of, like, not hentai, but, like, what do they call it? Ecchi manga. And I'm, like, getting, like, borderline turned on, and I'm like, girls? Girls! And, yeah, so, as I continued to buy sexually explicit manga, completely just in spite of my mother, I was all like, I think I like girls. I think I like this, like, in a sexual way. I think I like girls, like, more than just aesthetically. I think I do like girls. So, yeah, while I was, like, indulging in the manga experience, I had a sexual awakening where I realized I wasn't straight. And for a while I thought I was a lesbian, and then I was all like, no, I also kind of like guys. Guys are also nice. So then I decided I was going to identify as a bisexual, but that's a whole other can of worms that has nothing to do with my manga experience. The manga experience just turned me on to the fact that girl hot. Girls, yes, approved. Yuri approved. So, yeah, that was a thing. So, throughout high school, I would just purposely buy only, like, really, like, sexy manga. I was also kind of into shonen a little. I bought that Naruto. I really bought that Naruto. I fucking love Naruto. Fuck anybody who says otherwise. Naruto's the fucking shit. You can fight me. Love the Nart. But anyway, so I graduate high school, and during the time my parents were getting this ugly divorce where it was pretty much a game to see who could hate the other person. And so I never got, like, the experience of my parents taking me to colleges and, like figuring out, like, scholarships. I was on my own, and I didn't care because my parents didn't care. So I didn't immediately go into college like my other friends. Instead, my mom remarried, and I was hauled off into the middle of bumfuck nowhere, where the only way you could get a job is if you, like, were a friend, knew a family, or were a part of a family who owned a business. And the economy was shit, so you couldn't even get jobs, like, in, like, the neighboring town. So I couldn't get a job, so I didn't have any money. So manga just kind of went ahead and did its thing while I was kind of absent. I was able to buy things with, like, birthday and Christmas money that eventually came, and, like, the occasional, like, shopping trip to Barnes & Noble, where I would force my mom to buy me something. But it kind of just kind of got ahead of me, and I had nothing to, there was nothing I could do. Like, in this time, this was, like, the point where, like, borders closed. Like, I finally moved back down with my dad, who lived in actual, like, fucking human society and not in, like, farmer town, and borders was closing. So, yeah, that's the point where I came back into the manga scene. It's all like, one of the major bookstores that you bought shit from is actually, like, dying. Congratulations. My cat's in the corner. It's creepy as shit, I just realized. But, so I get back, immediately get a job, because, once again, I was in actual society and not where I had to, like, know the family of, like, the business owners to get a job. So I got a job, and then I immediately started buying manga again. And it was kind of all really uneventful, this manga buying, because I lived with my dad, and my dad and my stepmom weren't really into me buying things for myself, which was really kind of weird and toxic. But when, like, they kept a fucking eye on my bank account, so whenever I would go to, like, the bookstore and buy more than one book, my stepmom would be waiting for me, and she'd be like, Alexis, what the fuck are you doing? You need to be saving your money for stuff. You need to move out and like get a place on your own. You can't keep buying these frivolous things. And so, as much as I wanted to buy a lot of manga because I was like down the street from a Barnes and Noble, I couldn't buy jackass shit because my dad and my stepmom kept a very close eye on the shit that I bought. So yeah, I was in that kind of living situation for a couple of years, and then me and my boyfriend, who was my husband now, moved out, and outside of paying for rent and outside of paying for like insurance and outside of paying for like, you know, all the basic utility shit, I pretty much could spend my money however I want because I was no longer under my parents' roof and fuck them. So I pretty much just went ahead and started buying whatever the fuck I could. And around like a couple years into this, into like the finally being financially independent where I could buy anything I wanted without my parents judging me. My cat is causing some shit. Hiss. I started realizing that there was a community on YouTube that was very specifically about manga collecting and showing off what we bought and just showing off our collection and talking about manga, and I was like, I want to fucking do that. And I had like a full bookshelf. Like I have a bookshelf outside that's now dedicated to holding like a mass amount of like magic cards and art books, and it's kind of chaotic, but it's a Billy shelf essentially. And so I had a full Billy shelf full of manga, and I was like, I can do this, but first I need to get the essentials. So what you did not know is that like a solid month before I started like filming videos here on YouTube about manga, I went and like I did like a bunch of like babysitting jobs, a bunch of side jobs where I got a lot of cash money that month, and I went and I spent it all on manga. I bought like the entirety of like The Ancient Magus Bride that was out at the time. I bought like a bunch of shit just to fill out my collection to make it look nice for people. So once I started filming shit and like, this is what I have, I looked cool. So yeah, that was the behind the scenes of that. I just prepared myself, prepared the collection so it would look nice, so people could marvel at my collection and it would be cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we come to today where I don't know, being introduced to a community that collects manga and discusses manga, I now am a little more knowledgeable about the manga scene, about what's out of print, about what's going out of print, about what's coming into print, about licenses and publishing companies. You start to absorb that kind of shit when you get into a booktube-esque kind of community where it's just more nerdy. But I just know a little bit more about like the scene and the industry now. And manga buying has probably quadrupled, probably like infinitely like progressed into what you see today, which is chaos, and I'm scared. But yeah, that is essentially my manga journey. From then, it's all on YouTube. You can see it, you can live it, you can see me complaining about people complaining about omnibuses and me hating on Fire Punch because fuck Fire Punch. Anyway, yeah, that's my manga journey. That's it. I turned into a big old fat bisexual and now I have a lot of books. That's it. That's my manga journey. So, yeah, what's your manga journey? Is it like, would there be a point in filming it? If not, leave a comment. But otherwise, let's all share our manga journeys together. Let's film videos. Let's talk about our down and dirty pasts. Let's do it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the video for today. I will see you sexy motherfuckers in the next video. Probably just gonna be my October haul, which is gonna be wild because a lot of cool fucking shit's coming out this month, fam. So yeah, I will be seeing you guys in the next video, whenever that may be. Stay fucking sexy as shit. Bye.